PodcastOne.com presents the Ask Women podcast. A place where three female comics and a professional wing girl get together to dissect the female mind.
You don't know how I feel.
And explain it to men in terms they can actually understand. Booze. Now, here's the lovely ladies of Ask Women.
Welcome to Ask Women, the show that gets you inside the female brain. Well, you're welcome. Today I am Haley White, and I am joined with best-selling author and relationship expert Marni Kinrys.
Hello.
And our lovely co-host, comedian Kristen Carney.
Boo.
Boo. And we're bringing on Mo, our producer, to represent the dude perspective, which is oh so important.
So important.
It's a lot of pressure on Mo.
What's up, dudes?
We need you. It's a lot of estrogen going on, and we definitely need you here.
I even out, though. I think I bring a little of the testosterone side. I'm definitely lacking on the estrogen levels.
So it's 2 and 2.
Fair.
It's 2 and 2 today. I like it.
It's 2.5 and 1.5. Does that make sense?
That's why I like you, though. You're my
Maybe.
favorite cynical person. It's like you keep it real.
Yeah, like my glass right now is like fuller, but I literally look at it and I'm like, no, it's pretty much empty. I have coffee in it, and I don't know.
Like there's nothing
I look
left.
at it and I'm
2 6
like,
and it's done.
Literally, I look at the coffee and I think, okay, there's caffeine in there, but it's not going to do anything for me anyway. Why am I even drinking this? So,
God.
it's a happy life, ladies
It's a
and
happy
gentlemen.
life. Well, did you guys have a fun weekend? Did you get into anything crazy?
Nothing too crazy, just some barbecues, and then I literally just sat on the couch all day on Monday watching the new season of Arrested Development, a few sunny in Philadelphia
Can we talk about that just
Amazing.
for a second? I know it's a little off topic, but like, what did you think about it?
It was not so good.
Okay, thank you.
It was not a good first episode.
Or second or third.
Yeah.
It was not.
So what I heard is that because of the cast conflicting schedules, they basically had to work around that. That's why each episode is centered around one character.
Oh, it's kind of like our podcast.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
actually, I wasn't here last week, and Danielle's not here today. You'll get to know us all eventually together. But yes, just like that. I just felt like it wasn't like the old show at all.
No,
It's
it
a
wasn't
totally
like the old
different
show
thing.
at all. I didn't get the same feeling. It didn't feel as authentic. It felt forced. Yeah, didn't enjoy it as much.
Never want to admit this, but I've never really watched a full episode of Arrested Development. And doing stand-up and whatnot, it's like a deep, dark secret.
Not anymore.
It's like
Yeah,
I have
exactly.
to come
Now
out of the...
everybody
I just came
knows.
out to everyone.
You just came
they
out.
know.
You're out of the closet now.
They know.
I think it's funny, but it's not that funny.
It's just weird. Like
It's
I always
weird.
got into like the weird of it because it was kind of just really fucking quirky and like strange.
Well,
and,
there was nothing else
and
like it
Tobias
at that
Fugay.
time.
I mean,
Yeah,
David
Tobias
Cross.
Fugay.
Yeah, he's amazing. I see him walking around my neighborhood all the time with his wife.
I walked
They're
into a
very
restaurant
cute
one time and he was
He's
there.
not gay.
No, he's with
Real
Amber,
life?
whatever her name is, who's like super sexy and
Yeah,
much
he's
younger.
very much not gay.
Wow.
Yeah, very much not gay. But
Yeah, his wife is hot.
The
Yeah.
one thing I do know about the show is his character, how he throws in the gay nuances all the time.
All the
And
time.
The only reason I know is because my boyfriend will play clips of it for me, but he only plays those clips of like him inserting.
because that was one of the funniest parts.
So you're saying for all our bald listeners
Yes.
who are kind of not too good looking, they could get a hot girlfriend?
Absolutely.
Well, they have to become famous first.
Right.
Or be a little bit funny. And maybe wear jean shorts all the time because Tobias was never nude. He always wore jean shorts.
Yeah.
Or like exactly cutoffs, or like a big green suit and painting his face. Yeah, he was a wacky character.
I'm into bald, frankly.
If you guys
Mo's
really,
bald and
I
I'm
know.
good.
I like it. It's better than like, oh my God, where was I? Where I saw this guy with the worst comb over I've ever seen in my entire life. Like literally, like,
probably my hometown.
Oh, it was horrible. Oh, I was at the Getty this weekend, and there was a guy sitting there with this horrible comb over, and I couldn't stop staring at him. It's much better to go bald. It's super sexy. It's nice and soft.
Yeah,
and if you own it, then it's good.
For everyone who can't see Mo right now, he's bald, but he's chosen to shave the rest off, which is a super respectable move.
I think so.
because
I
there's
agree.
no shame in that. It's an embrace, and it's an embracement. If you're doing the comb over, you're desperately trying to hide something that you hate about yourself.
Exactly.
When you do something like Mo, it's like, yeah, that's a sexy man.
Yeah.
Because there's confidence in it.
It's a strong man.
Yeah. You know, I realize that hair and men's confidence are so closely tied together, especially my dad. I watched my dad just like comb whatever he had left for like the last 20 years. So when I started losing my hair, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to own this up.
Yeah.
You know, if I could still get women, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And I shaved it, and women liked it, and I was okay with it.
Yeah.
Well, they get a lot of women touching your head,
Yeah.
right? You get a lot of women touching your head.
It's a lot of head touching.
Let me feel that. What does it feel like?
That's really what men want at the end of the
And
day.
you're like, I own it. Here,
It is
touch it.
rough.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
It is real
I love
rough.
it. Well, okay, so when I was sitting on the couch on Monday, I watched the season premiere of The Bachelorette. Do you guys watch that show?
I just watched a spoof
Luckily,
of
no.
it. Burning
All right.
Love.
Oh my God, I love Burning Love. I thought that it's
my
anyway. But to
obsession.
go back to The Bachelorette, I want to talk about it because, you know, as you know, on The Bachelorette, and maybe people don't know who are listening, The Bachelorette is this one woman, and they have 25 guys trying to win her love, win her heart, and eventually
Are you
propose to
explaining
her
The
at the very
Bachelorette
end.
like no one's ever heard of
And
it?
so what happens? Well, I don't know. Maybe they've never heard of it before.
I don't watch it, but I do know
You
how it
have
works.
to remember there's others who are listening, not just
There's other people with lives.
Exactly, unlike me. So Monday night watching The Bachelorette. And so I wanted to talk about some of the guys who were introducing themselves to her because I really want to talk today about first impressions because all four of us actually are in relationships which are at different levels. So I want to know, you know, why you like your man and why you want to keep him. But I'll explain the Bachelorette situation first. So there was this one guy who introduced himself. He comes out of the limo and he introduces himself to the Bachelorette. And typically on The Bachelor or Bachelorette, near the end of the series, when there's two guys left, on one of the dates, they give the guy this card that he's supposed to hand to the girl where it says, you know, you can choose to forgo your own separate rooms, and here is like an amazing suite that you can have together if you choose to do so. And there's like a special key, blah, blah. It's called the fantasy suite. And usually they're connected at that point. They know each other. So if she's like, yeah, I want to go have sex with you off camera, let's go do it. But so this one guy who approached the Bachelorette, he's never met her before, gets out of the limo, and he, as a joke, hands her this card, and she opens it up. And it's the same reading of that card that usually happens like 8 weeks later. And right away, you could see her get very uncomfortable because what he was saying is like, let's just go up to the fantasy suite. So for her right now, she's like in princess land. You know, she's driving a Benz, which
Someone
she's never
just
done before.
said they want to fuck Cinderella.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's like, I'm expecting men on white horses, and you're like, want to go fuck in the bathroom. Like it does not compute for her. So it made her very uncomfortable, and she's like, you're not paying attention to what's going on here, and you're not like living out my dream. So I know this is a long story, but throughout the night he continued to say, let's go to the fantasy suite, let's go to the fantasy suite.
Was she laughing to kind of dismiss it?
No,
or she was getting
so
actually upset?
she was getting uncomfortable. You could see her body language being a little bit strange, and she wasn't really responding. She would give like a little laugh, which are the subtle signs that a woman is not interested in you, and she was trying to find an easy out. So when some other guy came up and said, oh, can I steal you away? She's like, yep, you can steal me away, and went with him. And he kept taking her back and saying, do you want to go to the fantasy suite? And he kept like leading her, and she finally
Subtle.
said, you're making me uncomfortable. I'm not going with you. So the whole point of the story is talking about like what you can and can't do when you first interact with somebody. And I wanted to know your opinions as to why is that not appropriate, and why did she get uncomfortable from doing that?
Well, I think for anybody, the first time that you're actually with someone, you're not ready to fuck. I mean, at least for me, it depends on the person, but like you need to get to know them first. You can't just open up. That can't be your opener. Like that's just common sense.
Like nice shoes want to fuck.
I mean, unless you're both on the same page and it's a different type of story. But like, yeah, if you actually are there to date someone, The Bachelorette's all about, I mean, marriage, and say that in air quotes. But
Yeah.
it's like, you know, talk to me first, at least for a little bit.
But some like a move like this on a reality show, that's a great way to get ratings, and it's a
Yes.
great way to get your name out there as whoever this character is, to possibly get his own show. I mean, there's so many different motivations as to why this guy might be doing this.
Yes,
You know,
for sure. Honestly, he's a lawyer from like Tennessee. I don't think that he was thinking like, oh, I'm going to be the next Bachelor if I make this move. I really think that he thought this will catch her attention. It'll be cute, kind of funny, and then maybe we'll actually go to the fantasy suite. Won't have sex, but maybe we'll talk and I'll get that alone time with her. So I don't think, but maybe that was the direction he was
first
going.
time around, it's like, okay, I get it. That was original. It's different. No one else, that was ballsy. No one else would do that. But then when you keep doing it, it becomes a little rapey.
Yeah.
Completely.
Where it gets creepy. So, I mean, I'm kind of confused. What's your question again? Because I feel like it's such a...
My question is, why is that not appropriate, or why is that not funny?
Because it's rapey, the end.
But what do you mean it's rapey?
I think it's in context. If a guy is really confident and he does it in a playful way, the girl might laugh it off and be like, well, at least buy me a drink first. Something like that.
Right, exactly.
And if you're a guy and all you're looking for is sex, yeah, I guess you can open with that. But be ready to say that to 10 women because you're probably going to get smacked about 8 times.
Yeah, for sure.
And then 2 of them will be game. And, I've known guys like that.
Numbers game?
And they always go home with a girl at the end of the night.
Huh.
Oh, for sure.
And she's not the prettiest girl, but, those guys really don't care.
Maybe he was doing it to the producers to better his odds. He was just kind of doing it the whole show to any woman that walked by, but we just couldn't see it on camera.
Right.
But on a reality show where a woman's looking for a husband, that's a bad idea.
Yeah,
the whole
agree.
idea of being on a reality show looking for a husband is a bad idea to begin with. So I don't have any sympathy for the Bachelorette.
Really?
No, God, no.
Why is it a bad idea?
You're absolutely
put
doing
yourself
it to get famous.
right.
Yeah.
Like you put yourself on this platform. This is what it is. Like you can't expect everyone to march in line to the same drum and be these perfect gentlemen on this national TV show. You're putting yourself.
But
in
isn't that what we expect in general? That we
in real life, not on.
But why is that? That's her real life now. Even though it's elevated to being filmed and on camera for the rest of the world to see, that is still her reality.
Right, but again, it's like when you choose to put yourself in a situation, like I unfortunately chose to move to Los Angeles. Now I have to suffer the consequences.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like if I stayed home in my podunk town and just, I wouldn't be able to blame everyone for like what my situation was. It's just like I put myself here. I'm going to be subjected to this, and that, and the bum pooping on the side of the street. That's my real life because I chose to put myself in that position. So the guy doing that, it's trashy, but it's also for TV, and they'll both move on, and
But let's use this as an example of reality. Like, let's say this wasn't a television show, and put yourselves in this similar situation. And some guy who you haven't really talked to yet comes up to you and does state his intention of literally just wanting sex from you. How does that make you feel, and why do you feel that way?
I think at first it is funny, to be honest. Like it is kind of hilarious. I can see why Mo's friend actually goes home with some of that low hanging fruit. It's like it makes sense. But after 1 or 2 times, it's absolutely like, look, you're not going to get laid. It's getting weird. Please don't rape me.
yeah.
Please don't rape me.
Yeah.
Okay, but so the first time he says it, it's funny.
It's kind of it could be kind of funny. It's you don't
Unless he
expect
says it and then just stares in your eyes the entire time he says it, then that gets creepy. It's like, I don't know you and you're looking at me very intently.
Well,
that
is it
feels
because-
animalistic.
Right.
But if he did say it in a way where he was kind of being suave, and I knew it wasn't going to happen, so I could kind of go back and forth with this bullshit fest with him. But if he continued it, it's weird because you're a human being. And I think when women aren't seen beyond the sexual side of themselves, then you just start to feel like less of a human. You have opinions, you have thoughts, you have feelings, and especially as a woman, you want those to be known, potentially like someone like me, to the whole world, And so when one guy who's interested in your body isn't interested in your words or your thoughts, your brain, it's a super turnoff.
I like that.
It's
That was a good
one.
answer.
It's the number one turnoff, I think.
Yeah.
And I think also we're crazy. Like we think about sex all the time. So when we see a woman at the bar, the first thing we're thinking about is having sex with her and how that's going to be. And I feel like a lot of guys, what they do is even when they say hello to a woman or have their first opening line, their words are saying, "Hey, how are you? My name's Mo," but their eyes and their action are saying, "Do you want to go have sex?"
You're all
right now?"
animals.
I see
You're
you
animals.
naked right now, and I'm
Yes.
not even listening to a word you say.
Yes.
Well, I always say to guys, it's the difference between need and want. If a guy's talking to me and I can see that he is seeing past me, not listening to my words, and he needs me, I get uncomfortable. I put my arms across my body. I feel violated. I want to protect myself and get the fuck out of there as soon as possible. But when I feel the desire from a man and the fact that he wants me, but it's okay if nothing happens, and that he could walk away and he has other options, that's when I find it super sexy, because there's that tension and curiosity that gets built up or put into its place of the need rather than want.
Now, what if this happened? A guy walks up to you at a bar and says, "God, you are so sexy. I want to have sex with you tonight," and then walks away.
I like that.
That's cool.
Never
I just got
says
excited by that
kind of
sentence
cool.
right there.
Never says another thing.
I think I got a boner. A lady boner.
Honestly,
I like
love
walking
that.
away because then you kind of
You're like, whoa.
Plant the seed.
I don't want to give this out as like advice, or I don't know if this is something I should be.
Why not? Why not give that out? Because that's your honest opinion. Your honest opinion is, I like what you just said. It turned me on, and I can picture myself in that scenario, and I like it.
But it's all about him walking away.
Because the persistence, I think, is where men lose women, is because that's where the desperation blossoms. But when you have this, I don't need you, but I want you, but I don't really care if that need is met because I am like a stallion. I don't know. White stallion. I don't know how that just sounded weird. Then you're intrigued because you're like, wait a second, why does he like want me but doesn't really want me?
But why isn't he sticking around?
Right. So there's that mystery. I mean, if Danielle was here, I feel like she would say the opposite. Like, no, I don't want to play, the game, whatever. But
she's the first person who would give in to that shit. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. But let me just say this too. I think we mentioned when we were chit chatting on the phone recently, we did just want to specify. I think that like some of us outside of Marni are not experts. I am the furthest thing from an expert, so I guess a disclaimer is the right word. I mean, this is just conversation of us out talking about men and what we think in our own opinions and the best for our best scenario. We're all different people, so everyone hopefully listening might understand a piece of Haley or a piece of Mo or a piece of me and Marni. And so anyway, don't take anything I say specifically literally, because I can't believe I'm in a 5-year relationship. It's a complete fluke. So again, just don't listen to me.
Why do you say that? Why do you think it's a fluke though?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, because obviously that takes a long time to be in that. That's a commitment. That's longer than even me, and I'm engaged. So
right. Well, I think I say it's a fluke because from the beginning, I've never been a dater. I've never been, I like to go out here and there and have some companionship, but there was never for me this like need to just date. I think I'm introverted to an extent, and I'm also okay by myself. So there was never this huge intention to find somebody, especially at a young age. So the way it happened was, through mutual friends. It wasn't like we were both out looking for each other.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's a fluke, just because it just happened. We didn't intentionally make it happen.
I really support like organic relationships, and I understand that in our day and age, it's like just by the nature of things, you meet people easier online and stuff. But it is nice to kind of have a buffer of a friend or mutual friends to kind of bring you together,
right?
Just because you feel like they're kind of vetted for already,
right?
And I feel a little bit safer. That's kind of how we got together as well. Yeah,
that's one of the best ways to meet girls is when you go out with a group of friends and your buddy's girlfriend brings out one of her single friends and everyone knows she's on the market, and already people could go, well, how is this guy?
And that's why you have to choose your friends wisely, people, because if you have like a bad set of friends, you're never going to meet anyone through them.
Right? You're going to bring a lot of train wrecks.
Or a guy friend. I have a guy friend that no matter what, he will go after every single girl that's in a group like it's his property. So even if you can get it, like he's going to cock block you all night.
Really? Well, that's not a good friend.
Don't be that guy.
No.
He's that guy.
Open it up for some other people to taste the poo-poo platter.
Well, I wanted to add on to your disclaimer a little bit, and just to say that this is entertainment. This is us having fun. Yes, I am an expert, but the thing is that this is an honest representation of women. Women are equally as confused as the men that are listening or the people that are listening. So actually, we're trying to work through things. So, a lot of people wrote in saying, well, it seems like the women are wishy-washy and a little bit all over the place. Absolutely, because they're still trying to figure out things, and hopefully that's what we get to is a resolution at the very end, or at least a better understanding of where everybody else is coming from.
Yeah, because when you have a thought and you're alone and you think about that thought, your brain doesn't, mine anyway, doesn't go that far. So when you get in a conversation, all of a sudden you start exploring other people's thoughts, and then your own decisions can change. So this is a totally natural, organic.
I'm going to interrupt this because we have a caller.
How dare you interrupt me, caller?
Hello. So this is Ian?
Yes, this is Ian.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for being our first caller.
First caller.
All right.
And probably the last.
Yeah.
I will call back as many times. First, I want to say, Marni, I appreciate you always posting. I follow you on Facebook, so you put out some good things. I felt like it was time to call in.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for that. Now I'm blushing. So, let's hear your question. We're happy to help and give advice.
My question is, this kind of happened over this weekend. You put out a challenge for your followers to start a conversation, over the Memorial Day weekend, and I did that. And it actually happened. I was flying to Colorado and met this very nice lady. She's from New York. She's flying in to meet some of her friends, and we're at the baggage claim terminal, and things were going so great, but I just couldn't think of what else to say, how to transition from, we have this good banter going on to how do I go about getting their number? Because it was such a short period of time. It was, I'd say, anywhere from 4 to 6 minutes of conversation, and she was reciprocating what I was saying, but I was just really stuck. And so when she was picking up her bags, my bags hadn't come down the little carousel, and she was walking away, and I'm like, I'm letting the opportunity go away. I was just really stuck, and I was kind of mad because
you wanted that number. You wanted her phone number. You didn't want it to end, right?
Yeah, I did, and I just didn't know how to transition from, hey, I'm this nice guy, which I am, and and it was just really good banter. I'm asking what she does. She's asking me questions, and so I know she's interested. But I know
that's great. So Ian, it sounds like you guys were having a connection or a possible connection. You were intrigued, and in your mind, you said, "Okay, she's cool. I want to ask for her phone number." So actually, before I give an answer, I wanted to open it up to Haley and see what she has to say.
Well, I think obviously she's talking to you, Ian, so she's already interested. So you have to trust in that, because if she wasn't interested, she wouldn't even be, really engaging with you. So if I were you, I would say make it casual in a sense, like maybe I could find you on Facebook, because that way you're able to kind of see her a little bit more and approach her initially there without immediately getting her number.
Yeah, I agree with Haley, and I have to say, so many times I've been in that situation on the airplane, because I like to talk on the plane. I'm afraid of flying, and whatever I can do to distract myself.
Me too.
Yeah. So you always have that, like, okay, like, we'll probably never see each other again. Not that I'm saying this for me personally in like a romantic way, but you strike up some sort of relationship on the plane, and then before you know it, no one knows the etiquette. There's like no written rule on how to continue a relationship. I met this, and I'm sorry, I won't make this all about me, but that's what I usually do. But no, I met this older couple actually from Pasadena on an airplane once. They were the best people I've ever met in my entire life. And even for me in that situation, I wanted to say, like, how could I see you guys again? But, they're 65, 70 years old, and it was weird. So I think what Haley mentioned, the best way is to introduce, just in some fashion, the fact that you just opened a Twitter account or something, and like, what's your Twitter name or something, where you can, if you don't have the courage to answer or to ask for the number in that moment, at least you can hang on to that string of some sort of, her name.
I got an idea, actually. It just came to me, actually, Ian. Something that a guy did once on the plane after we were talking was he gave me his business card, and then I, in return, gave him mine. And that was kind of like a more formal, really cute way. And then... he had my number in return, and that always gives her the option to, like, return the business card,
too. So I'm going to give a little bit of a more direct response. Okay, good. As wonderful as it is to make Haley and Kristen more comfortable.
Ian, I apologize, by the way.
No. These are, because as I was saying before, and Ian, you probably couldn't hear this part, we were giving a disclaimer that, like, this is just, we're all trying to work it out. So I say, if you know what you want, ask for it. It's the only way that you get it. If you say, if you think in your head, I want her Facebook, of course, you know what I say. The only way to get what you want is by asking for it.
It's just finding the courage, I think, is the hardest part for us.
Ian, you have the courage to take the challenge, so you have the courage to ask for the phone number. Even if it comes out a little bit shaky, you say, you know what, I want your phone number.
And Ian, and you had the courage to call in. I've listened to so many programs, podcasts, radio shows where I've thought, oh my God, I want to call in, but I would never call in because it's too scary. You called into a show, you can ask a girl for her number. It's the same balls, man.
And Ian,
I will say that what I left out is that I was nervous because we're at the luggage rack, and there's some other guys, and I know the guys, they're looking at me and they're thinking, man, I wish I would have thought. They had that look like, I wish I was talking to her.
Of course.
But I wanted to take her away, and I guess my hesitation was trying to get her away so I could ask her in private.
Why?
But as she picked up her bag, she's like, hey, it was nice talking to you. I can tell, I was like, here's my opportunity. Should I chase after her? You know, should I wait for my bags?
I'm gonna give you a little tip. So you probably know this, but I wear usually a hair elastic around my wrist. So this is for me when I used to have extreme approach anxiety, extreme social anxiety, like fears of ever doing what I wanted to do. So I was actually in Australia when I was doing this, and I would go out and practice approaching people every single day, and I wasn't allowed to go home till I approached 10. And so I took this I took this rubber band and hair elastic that was around my wrist, and I would go 3, 2, 1, go, and I would snap the band, and I would have to do whatever it was. And the thing that I taught myself was that it's about the act of doing it, not about being successful doing it. So for right now, this girl, you met her, you talked to her for 5 minutes. She could be in your life forever. She could go away. She's not anybody substantial for you right now. Right. But what is substantial for you is taking that chance. I don't want to
monopolize the time. I do have one other question, because I do have another opportunity. This Sunday, there's a girl that, and I don't know if you remember me emailing to you that she goes to the same church that I go to. Beautiful gal. I'm Catholic. You know, I'm assuming she's Catholic because we're both going to Catholic church.
Yeah, she's actually a Jew taking notes.
I'm sorry.
Nothing. It's a horrible joke. Go on.
It's always hard to make that transition to. But I see her every Sunday that I go to church, and just making that transition.
Let me ask you something, okay? This transition is from seeing her around church to having some sort of interaction with her. I understand that in your mind it's difficult to make that transaction, but you don't have anything with her right now. There is no not transaction, but there's nothing. You have nothing with her right now. Later. You staring at her. You have her looking at. Eventually, you're going to become creepy because you're thinking in your mind, I should be approaching her. I should be talking to her. So stop worrying about what other people are thinking, because nobody gives a shit about what you are doing with your life. I'm sorry. I wish everybody was watching me and caring about me, but they're not. So nobody's watching, nobody's judging you. So take action, go after what you want, and if she says no, just say, okay. Then introduce me to your hot friend over there. The next one will
say yes.
Exactly.
If she says no, Protestants church is usually right down the street.
Exactly.
New religion.
Change religion. It's all good. That easy.
And Ian, man, listen, buddy, the worst a woman could say is no. That's the worst they could do. I think the worst thing for you, what you just realized, is the missed opportunities.
Yeah.
That will eat at you. I know you'll drop it in a second.
Yeah, that missed opportunity, it just... from this weekend, from Memorial Day weekend, when I didn't ask that woman, and I'm thinking I had the perfect opportunity, and it's just I keep beating myself up about it, and I don't want it to happen again. I just want to be able to have that.
So here's what I want you to do, Ian. Okay, so I want you to first of all email me after you've done this, because I'm holding you accountable to do this. I want you to write down a rule for yourself, and the rule is if I see a girl that I want X with, I will do it. Doesn't matter about the outcome. And you're going to write that down, and you're going to post that on your mirror in your bathroom, and you're going to look at it every single day so that you remember that. That is your new rule that you follow, that you have to follow.
Statement again, you kind of cut out for a second.
Oh, I said, I don't even remember exactly what I said, but if I see a girl that I want to X, so you want to ask for her number, ask her out, ask her to go have sex, ask her to kiss, whatever it is, I am going to do it, no matter what the outcome. Okay? So just so you can remind yourself, you can do it. You called in here. You already started a conversation. Just take it to that next level.
Yeah, and this girl at your church, you should plant the seed. Like, I know you haven't talked to her yet, but just walk up to her and be like, hey, I'm Ian. I just want to, compliment something she's wearing. Okay. Give her a quick compliment and be like, nice meeting you. I'll see you around, and walk away. That's it. And I guarantee you she'll know who you are from then on.
Ian, I am a Catholic as well, and I know that I think, honestly, you shake hands at that part of the Mass. I don't know technical words because I'm a really flaky Catholic, but get in the row in front of her or get in the row behind her. You'll have that opportunity when you have to turn around and shake everyone's hand and say, peace be with you. You can look her in the eye and give her a nice smile.
And also with you.
And you initiate a familiarity with you. It can happen maybe every other mass you have, and not in a stalking way, but you get in the same vicinity. I remember going to church in high school, and this one guy who did actually have a crush on me always sat behind my mom and I, and he eyeballed me, and it was like I knew my mom would kind of nudge me and say, "There's that guy," and he was handsome. So it was like I knew, but I mean, nothing ever happened with it at all. But initiate some sort of familiarity between the two of you,
and let us know how it goes. We want to hear. Will you call us back and let us know how it goes?
Yes, we love Ian, who's our first caller. I think it's fantastic. Well, Ian, thank you so much for calling in. You're awesome.
Thank you.
Definitely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Great talking to you. Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Right.
Yeah, keep
Good luck,
reading them and
Ian.
keep responding. But
Godspeed.
Thank you.
You can do it.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good day. All
Bye.
right. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
there's an altar in a church for a reason, guys. So I think we have to. Are we going to go to break in a second?
I think we are going to go to break. I'm riding off a high, having a phone call right
I
now. It's
know.
fantastic. Well, thank you, Ian. That was awesome. And if anybody else ever has an issue or a question about women, then you can call in to 323-622-8623, and we'll be back in a second.
Hey, this is Dr. Drew, and you can now hear every episode of Dr. Drew Podcast at podcast1.com. There's no place else you can get comedy, sports, entertainment, health, and advice, all the podcast you really care about. Like mine, the Dr. Drew Podcast, and a huge collection of other great shows, too. That's podcastone.com. Go to podcast1.com for the best podcast out there, like mine, Dr. Drew. That is podcast1, O-N-E, podcast1.com.
You're listening to the Ask Women Podcast, a Podcast One presentation.
I could slap your face raw.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Ask Women Podcast. Real advice straight from the source. Women and then half of one. That's me, Kristen, the half. So before we get into our second half of the show, I just wanted to say you guys are awesome for listening, and we thank you for that from the bottom of my shallow heart. But if you want to do us a little favor, if you enjoy listening to us and want to support us, go to podcast1.com and then go to our Ask Women page. You'll see the logo. It's the big lips. Click on that page and you'll see the Amazon logo banner. Just click on that and do all your shopping on there. Because as you know, if you listen to podcasts, we get a little kickback, and then it helps us keep doing this.
And Amazon's the best.
It's so the best. You can buy
addicted.
anything. I just bought my mom my voice is cracked. This is amazing. I just bought my mom a head massager because her and my father don't touch, and she loves it. Yeah, she loves it. So it's easy. And the other thing you can do so that you don't have to think every time, because I know thinking for me is difficult, just save that as your homepage, that when you click on that banner, and it will always go through the Ask Women podcast. So you won't have to go back to Podcast One to do it. So
bingo.
I love it. Yeah. So go to our Amazon page.
And then also can't buy a bride, but that's what we're here for.
Yeah. That's a donation. Actually, we'll be making to you. But also rate and comment on iTunes and tell your friends.
Oh yes, please, please go on iTunes and give us 5 stars. Write comments that are. You can actually say that you hate us, but just make sure that you rate us with 5 stars, because that boosts us up and validates us and helps out a lot.
Yeah, and we love to hear what you want to hear. We want to know, because I feel like, like Kristen and I were saying, we're not the experts here. Marni is, but we're here just to represent other chicks, like where we come from and what we know. So tell us, like, what you liked, what you didn't like. We're here for you.
I'll take it personally.
So Haley, you were saying, because at the break you were talking about you and your fiance. And actually, I want to talk about how all of us met our significant others. But what was it about him that made you like him?
Well, so I was like Miss Late Bloomer, just to put it out there. I was pretty, I was like kind of a good girl. I still had a good time in high school. But once I got to college, I got a little crazy. I kind of really explored. I really started to date. I had like a really good time. Yeah. So let's just say, unlike Kristen, I did date a lot. And, it was tough. I felt like I was constantly kind of, not all the way there. I had a few kind of serious boyfriends. But when I met Dave, it was instant. It was something that was totally different. And he was really direct. I think one of the biggest things was there there weren't really any games, which, I mean, everyone plays things differently, but like he was the guy when he showed up on our first date, he was standing outside of the car. It was kind of adorable, like with the car door open.
Wow.
He was like waiting for me. And I had been like, opening my own doors and dating a few comedians and, paying my own way for way too long. So I think it was just this like chivalrous thing that was so unique and refreshing. I don't know. What about you?
No, I'm sure. Well,
Marni?
actually, I want to ask more questions.
Oh.
So tell me about how you got on the date, because that's where the attraction starts, right?
Yeah.
So these guys, the guys that are listening, I'm sure a lot of them want to know first step. So tell me about your first interaction and what he did and why it worked on you.
Well, it's really interesting, actually. We met through mutual friends at a New Year's Eve party like 9 years ago.
Oh.
So we met one magical night in Denver, and, it's a little blurry. It was New Year's Eve, And so we met, and I remember talking to him, and we made out in this like backroom coat check thing, and it was really exciting.
That's hot.
It was super hot.
Very Carrie Bradshaw.
It was very.
Seriously.
Oh, and I was totally into Sex in the City.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like Samantha that night, but it was just a make out. We made out like in this coat check thing, and I never saw him again.
Really?
So
He didn't ask for your number?
he asked for my email.
Nice.
See what happens when you go for email 9 years later.
9 years.
You reconnect.
All right. This is how we learned.
Ask
This
for
is
a
how we
phone
learned.
number.
It's the
Ask for a
snail
phone
of
number.
dating.
And
but-
then he had on Facebook, he saw a mutual friend, like, you might know this person.
Oh, really?
And it was my picture, and he clicked on it, and he messaged me. I get this message, and I'm like, wait, I recognize that name. And I was like, oh my God. He's like, do you want to get drinks? It's like one line. Nothing, like no fluff. I was like, wait. I replied, I'm like, did we make out in a closet on New Year's Eve 8
that
years
what you
ago?
wrote?
Yeah. And he never addressed it, by the way, so I was still unsure about it. I was like, I think this is him. I'm not sure. And then we went out. So that was how it started. And so I
Okay.
kind of had known him, but not really.
But so there was something intriguing
Yeah, it was
about him that you
exciting.
wanted to go out with him, because I'm sure you could have had many people who could have written that to you and it wouldn't have been interesting.
Yeah.
So can you maybe try and explain the difference?
I do think that it's a sexual connection, and something about having that instantaneous like chemistry with someone when you're like in a closet on New Year's Eve and
Right.
it's really hot, and then you never see them again. You have to like wonder like what
Who
could
are
happen,
they?
And he was so direct, and that was like a really big turn on to me. But from that point on, after the Facebook message, it was only phone calls. There weren't, maybe follow-up texts, but to ask me out and to really, once he got my number and everything, it was just phone calls, which was a huge lady boner turn on for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have those nights where you just talked for hours and you're like, I don't want to get off?
I don't want it to stop. No, I'm not a phone talker. My ear gets hot. I get antsy.
I
I'm
know.
pretty much watching another show while we're talking anyways.
Yeah.
I'm like, just come over.
Haley's like, I'm not a phone talker, but totally want to do a podcast.
What?
Well, these don't burn your ears the same way
No,
that a
they
cell
don't.
phone does, so it's very different.
Good point, though.
But it's funny
I have
because I hate the phone
I have
too.
so many more questions, but before I get to the questions, I want to hear a little bit more about Kristen.
God, Facebook is so involved in this conversation right now. It's humiliating. The way I met my boyfriend is when we both live in Los Angeles currently, but we're both from upstate New York originally. He's from about 20 minutes away from my hometown.
Oh, wow.
And when I was in high school, I was like horribly bullied, and I had like no friends, and like it was awful. But I was a dancer, and so all of my friends were from other towns. And so my best friend Jen was from his town. I didn't know him, but Jen and I were like inseparable. And she would always say his name, and I had never met him because they both went to the same school. I didn't go to that school. I didn't know people in her world as much as if you went to her school, you would, whatever. So anyway, I would always hear his name. I'd always hear his name over and over and over. So I had a familiarity with just his name in general. And that was probably from the time I was like 16.
Oh, wow.
And then he said to her at one point when we were like, he's a year younger than me. When we were like when I was
Cougar.
18, and I know totally, and I went away to college, he had said to her, oh, like, I really like Kristen Carney. She's like really hot or whatever. And so she knew that he was interested in me.
Did he talk like that?
Yeah, he did it basically. And so I had always heard his name. Now I am in a different portion of my life away at college, and I come home and she said, do you want to go see my friend? And she says his name. Do you want to go see his band? And I'm like, oh my God, this is so ridiculous. Sure. Just because I had heard his name for so long, and like she told me he thought I was hot. Anyway, I go, and by the way, the band was playing in a church gymnasium.
Yeah, they were.
So it was super,
What was their
super
name?
turn on. Modified Block Style. And they're actually putting together a record right now, which is funny this many years later. But they used to play with Gym Class Heroes all the time. They were, I don't know, they did decent. Anyway, that's not the point of the story. So I go to hear the band. I see him for the first time, and I thought, oh my God, he's like really handsome. But the first thing that went through my head was like, I would have nothing to say to him because he looked so mysterious and standoffish.
Was it the guitar, though?
He was standing behind a keyboard, and he was kind of looking down, and he wasn't really talking to anybody. But it just made me like, oh my God, he's way too cool for me. I would never, we couldn't talk. And then that was it. And so then anyway, like 5-6 years later,
so you never talked to him that night?
I never talked to him. Not a word. Not a word. I was
What?
like, no way, that kid is like way too cool for me.
So like Ian, missed opportunity.
So you just
I know.
aborted.
No, but I didn't have any interest in pursuing him at that point because I was away at college and I didn't even really know who he was. I thought he was cute, but it wasn't like I was like, oh my God, I have to have this guy in that
Right.
moment. It was just like, oh yeah, that's him. So then anyway, about 5-6 or more years later, I was moving to Los Angeles. He had already been living in Los Angeles for 2 years. He heard I was moving here, contacted our mutual friend Jen. And so then Jen put the word into me. I'm dragging the story out way too long.
No, it's good.
But anyway, all of a sudden I get a friend request on Facebook from that name that I always know. And I'm like, oh yeah, that guy.
Oh my God, how is this the same story?
Right. Because you're also from where Dave's from. So I was like, oh yeah, that guy. And then I accepted his friend request and I looked through his pictures. I was like, yeah, he is cute. And then that was it. I didn't think about it again. And then about 2 weeks later, he wrote me a message. And because I am a huge Larry David fan, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Seinfeld, and he is as well, he wrote to me. Actually, no, it was on MySpace. He wrote, this was a while ago, yeah. This is super dating myself. He wrote, marry me, ? I mean, you love Larry, I love Larry, it just makes sense. And it was almost like, for everyone else, that sounds crazy. But for me, it was like fireworks had just gone like boom, 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 boom. It was like the finale because I live my life by the philosophy of Seinfeld. And I know that sounds ridiculous. And I would
a lot of people do.
And I would never meet other people. Like I went out with a kid in college who hated Seinfeld. And I literally broke up with him because he didn't like Seinfeld.
It can be a deal breaker.
It was. I turned it on
TV
once or
shows.
something. Yeah. And I was like, then we just aren't going to connect. And I know that from the get-go. So him bringing up Larry David's my hero. It was like, we're meant to be together. And so then from there, we started the back and forth because I hadn't moved to Los Angeles quite yet. So, I mean, that was the starting portion. When I came to visit, we started hanging out and then,
It had been brewing for a while, though.
Yeah, it was weird because it was never on the top of my head. It's like it's something, it usually is going to hit you just out of nowhere. It wasn't like I was like, this guy. I was like, there's something about this guy, but I don't know what it is. But he just kind of kept coming back.
Okay. And then what keeps you attracted to him?
It's that Seinfeld. It's that mutual understanding and perspective on the world. That's really important to me because I always felt like I wasn't really interested in dating because all the guys that I came across, we didn't share an understanding and way of thinking. And I would always feel disconnected because of that. And all of a sudden, here comes this guy that's from the same area as me. He gets where our backgrounds are similar, our families are similar, and there's this common ground. And then all of a sudden, you realize your sense of humor is similar. Your take on the world is similar. You want the same things in certain ways. I mean, we're different in a lot of ways, but all of a sudden, you start building. It's like you want to just be with someone like yourself, and that's actually from Seinfeld as well.
That's the truth.
But so as you started dating, like how did you figure these things out about each other? How did you know that you had all these commonalities?
It was just like it was just like commentary. I'd make a comment about something, he'd make a comment about something, and I was like, yes, and then he'd be like, yes, and then all of a sudden it was like this building thing. So every time we went out, I was excited to connect with somebody. It was a connection, over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, and that does lead to a lot of, physically I found him very attractive, but that leads to a chemistry physically and mentally.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, because I the guys that I work with, I tell them a lot, if you don't have a latch-on point or a landing point or a connection, when you do approach a woman, similar to like Ian, when they're having their 5-minute conversation, if you don't have that connecting point, even if you get her phone number, she's not going to answer the phone the next day.
Right.
You were just a guy that she had a conversation with for 5 minutes at the airport. But when you do have those connecting points, there is a reason for you to talk again, because you've created curiosity, you've provided excitement, and you've created something that's very familiar to her, which I believe creates a feeling of addiction to that other person. It makes you feel special. It makes them feel special. But overall, it makes you think in your mind, he gets me. And for me, that's a very addictive feeling with men. And even when I interact with women as well, it's like, you understand me.
Right.
So I know a lot of guys, when they are talking to women, they forget to share things about themselves because they're always so focused on, what does she want to talk about? What does she want to hear? Let me ask her 30 million questions so she can hear more answers about herself. So by the end, she knows way more about herself, but absolutely nothing about you, and there's no connection formed.
Right.
So I love what you're saying about how, or what kept you interested in your boyfriend, other than, you find him dazzling and adorable, but the fact that you had commonalities and that he understood you and he understood your quirky way of thinking, and he respected it, and if anything, like, really admired and celebrated it, which is awesome.
Right. So I think really without that, it would have just been like, oh, that guy's cute. He's cute, whatever.
It was really
move on.
Larry David that brought you guys
It
together.
really was. I actually
owe him.
I know.
So.
You know,
It's
big
creepy.
time. Seriously, it's so funny
Makes
that you say the
sense.
Seinfeld thing, because I know 2 other couples that are obsessed with Seinfeld, and that's like their bonding point. Like, one of the girls, every time I hang out with her, she has at least 2 Seinfeld references, and she's like, "Oh, that's like when Jerry did this." I'm like, "No, it's like when you're doing this right now, not when Jerry Seinfeld."
Well, that's why he and I
did
can't
something.
invite people over, because we would just creep them out too much, because we'd be like, oh, there's the scene in Curb when Larry, it gets, I mean, we don't take it overboard. It's like, if it comes on, occasionally we'll sit down and watch and then, quote it back and forth for a little
Admit
while.
that you haven't left your house for a week until today.
We're not that creepy about it, but it was that basic foundation.
I love that. And then so,
get that.
Haley, what about you? So, what made you want to say yes when your boyfriend proposed?
Have you seen
to
her
you?
ring? It was the ring.
Right, exactly. Seinfeld and a ring.
Well, I feel like I'm a really independent person. And so I needed someone that was comfortable with that and really confident in his skin. And there's a sexiness about confidence that I can't even describe, and about someone who has his own thing going on and he's really confident in his own skin. And no matter where I bring him or what we do, I know that he can go off and be fine with or without me. And that initially was what was like a really big turn on as we started dating more and more. But then I think over time, he's just as weird as I am. I mean, we do share, like Kristen was saying, the same views on kind of the way that we want to, live out our lives and what's important. And he doesn't mind when I want to watch The Voice, and he's getting into it because it's a really fucking good show, you guys.
I'm sorry, but I stopped watching because I can't. Shakira just doesn't do it for me. Neither does Usher.
Too bad.
And I have no respect for that show, just because it's a great show and I like it better than American Idol.
Oh, really?
But that show has not produced anyone who has done shit in this town.
That's true.
Is that
and
true?
And because of it,
it's great entertainment.
Great entertainment, but their artists are like B artists. It's like, I'm looking at American Idol. There's Philip Phillips. I just listened to his album. Love it. There's
Carrie
Underwood. There's Kelly Clarkson. All these people are
The
topping
Voice is
the
new,
charts.
though, so take it easy.
Yeah, but Kelly Clarkson was
Was
the
the
first
first
winner.
3 years old. 3 years old.
Was
They're
the-
getting it.
Finding their
Actually,
groove.
I don't
Even
know.
the X Factor overseas produced those little Munchkin boys.
I think
What's
we
their
just
name?
found
One
Mo's weak
Direction?
spot.
One Direction, and they're huge.
Competition
I feel
musical
like,
shows.
Yes, and boy bands maybe.
I just like, I like a show that produces something of worth. And they just, all they produce is just entertainment for the moment. So I enjoy The Voice,
what? Oh.
but I can't take them seriously as actual.
Haley's getting
I'm
worked up.
getting heated up now. I'm getting heated up. Okay, here's the deal with The Voice. You're watching whatever it is that makes, sorry to go off topic,
That's
but
okay.
it has to do with dating too. Whatever it is that makes someone charismatic, you can't take your eyes off of them. Like one night I was watching and I was crying. Yeah, I was fucking crying in my living room because it was like you're seeing these people like evolve and become, and you can't figure out what it is or why you like these 5 people, but the package deal that they bring is so unique that you're suddenly drawn to them, even if they're not the best singer. And I think that's the same with dating. It's like there's something about that package,
That's
literally
true.
and not literally, that really kind of brings you, to them.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. So, so I want to continue with you and Dave. So in the beginning, you said that his confidence is what attracted you. But I know you said you can't even explain it, but could you try?
Yeah.
Like what as a woman, what is it when you're around a confident man? What does it mean for you?
It means a couple of things. I feel like it wasn't always about him, having dated a few comedians in the past. It was always kind of the so-and-so show or whoever, and I feel like it was really nice to have someone who's confident enough to be able to really contribute to the conversation, and it wasn't always bringing it back to him, which was a huge turn on. And he's extremely intelligent, and intelligence is, I think, top notch. Someone that's always introducing you to things or like knows exactly what you're talking about, but can like show you more of it.
Oh, that's my turn on too.
Yes. I'm like, oh, I like what you're saying, but I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Let me ask
You've
you this.
educated me.
Let me ask you this, because I think there's a fine line sometimes with a guy who is confident and not protective of his woman, to the point where some women feel like he doesn't love me, so I'm going to try and do things to make him jealous. Does he, in his confidence, because you're a very sweet girl, and I'm sure you might go out somewhere and you're so friendly, and a guy might take that as, oh, she's hitting on me, and cross the line, and then your man comes in the picture. Does he step in and be like, hey, buddy?
No, actually, that's happened a couple times. I was out at the bar a few weeks ago, and I was just talking to some dudes. He was at the bar getting my drink. So I was just chatting him up, having a gay old time, doing some high kicks, And they were like, what the hell is going on? But we were having a great time, and he walks over, and you could see on their faces it was like shock. They had no idea. And I kind of, it clicked for me that, oh, they didn't realize I was dating. And so he just introduces himself like a friend, and next thing you know, he became their friend.
Yeah, I
we
mean,
started
that's something.
talking, and I was like, what? It was very strange.
Yeah, Dave, I mean, if you meet Dave, you'll see he's like the nicest guy in the world. So even if there was some sort of tension that was building, it would not really build to the extent, because he's a really, really nice guy. And they'd be like, oh, okay. They'd end up like shaking hands and yeah.
And I think that comes from a place of confidence, though. Because when you're insecure, you want to be like, oh, look at me.
Right.
Because there's a lot of guys out there that are like, hey, bro, don't be touching my girl like that, or you're going to get this fist.
Well, actually, I had the opposite when I first started dating my husband. Because I am a huggy, grabby person. I talk to everybody. And I first started dating my husband. And I remember we were out one night at a bar, and he was with his friends. And I was like, oh, I'm going to talk to this guy. And like I literally like grabbed his waist for a second. And that's just the way that I interacted at that point. I was also 24, but that's me. I'm very fine with putting myself out there that way. And if somebody else misinterprets it, that is on their shoulders. But I remember my husband got really mad at me because of that behavior. And that was one of our first arguments, because he was trying to tell me to not be me. And I had a really hard time with that. And eventually I understood more about what I was possibly putting out there to men. And so I definitely toned it down a little bit, but I am still myself. I will talk to men in front of him. And now that my husband understands me more, he will do what, Dave did, and just come up and be like, hey, and then put his arm around me, not in like a protective, like, you better not touch my girl, but in a, I know everything's
because
cool
he trusts
and it's
you
okay
now.
and he trusts me.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, he obviously did not trust me very much, or was dealing with his own issues from a past relationship, or had his own insecurities. But we definitely worked through that.
I think that's more common too. I can see too, like you feel like you're being boxed in, not allowed to be you. But really, it's also there are different boundaries that come in being in a relationship. Yeah. I've had to kind of edit myself because I'm a hugger. I hug everybody, and then I realized like maybe I shouldn't be hugging everybody all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's been that's been a sore spot for me as well, because doing some stand up, that means you're around dudes all the time, and so. Because I'm not the most affectionate girl in the world, I know he gets a little concerned, because I'm not always, oh my God, I love you, I need you, I love you, I need you. It's just not who I am. I feel very phony when I do things like that. So when I am trying to book a show or, communicating with a friend, whoever, about something to do with what I'm pursuing, the text message comes in and all of a sudden there's like a little tension, because it's like, oh, who's that? So, I mean, that's been an issue, and I know neither of us have really addressed it properly to where it continues to build. That's something that we definitely have to work on, and I know we're both procrastinating because it's not something that you want to deal with.
Can I ask you a question? What would be the best way for him to bring it up with you? Because if it's not being spoken right now, it's just separating the two of you, because there is this unspoken thing between you. There's tension. It's where nagging comes from. Anyway, it builds and builds and builds.
You're telling me.
Yeah, exactly. So what would be the way for him to handle it as a man, for you to still be attracted to him and not to hate him or feel belittled as a woman?
Confidence about the whole situation, not showing no insecurities.
But what if he did have an insecurity? What if he honestly said, this makes me insecure? Is that like, you're like, oh, deal breaker, I'm not into you anymore?
No, it makes me, I guess it irritates me because it takes energy. I mean, maybe I'm being selfish, but it takes energy for me to deal with that insecurity. And it sounds very selfish, but I feel like I have, over 5 years, neither of us have shown any hint of straying or doing the wrong thing to where there shouldn't be that trust. So I get frustrated when there is that insecurity because I've done nothing, or he's done, neither of us have done anything to continue that feeling. Right. So that's why I get frustrated, because I just think at this point, you should know what I'm doing.
Doesn't feel justified.
Right. And I've also expressed, in moments of just emotion, that because of that feeling of insecurity, it's really put me in a hard position, because I will isolate myself from other people and I won't be as social as I want to be, which is a hard thing on your personal career. You do a little bit, but I also have to take responsibility to know that I chose to be in a relationship too, and I either of us could leave at any time. So I choose to stay and all of that. So I don't want to place any blame, but I do feel that there is the moment where he gets insecure. I feel a little resentful because I think, well, do you know how many people I'm not talking to?
Yeah.
For you?
Does that lower your attraction towards him and your connection towards him?
It lowers the connection for sure, because whenever there's that tension, it's a gross feeling, when there's that support and I guess what Huggy says is there's that confidence, and that is so attractive, so if there was that confidence of like, my girl's doing her thing, she's doing this weird career and she's crazy, but she's going to do it anyway, and give me a hug and say like, go get him or whatever, that would feel good to me, and that's where the attraction would grow. But when there's the insecurity, it's not attractive, and then it brings up all of their issues.
It feeds more and more. But
yeah.
Well, I know that when I have an insecure moment with my husband, I can sense that he has an insecurity, and it goes unspoken. It's like my brain just starts going in a completely different direction, and I find that I brings up everything that I think is unattractive about him, and I question a lot of things until we speak about it. So now, we've been together for 10 years now, so now we know to talk about it. But in the beginning, it would spiral me in another direction, because I'd be like, oh, so you're insecure about this. Oh, you're not a man. Oh, you're not this. Oh, I don't enjoy our sex life. All these things, until we would have a conversation about it, and it would be spoken.
And you end up building this mountain of evidence suddenly that when you talk, it's like it's not just that one thing. It ends up being that huge fucking, mountain.
Like, we're not right for each other.
Yeah, exactly. I used to do that too.
I think for men, when they notice a situation like that, it's not that it's your intention that pisses them off. It's the other guy's intention that's talking to you.
Right.
Because that guy's thinking, damn, this girl digs me. I'm going to probably take her home tonight. And that's what this guy is bringing to that conversation. And as a man, you see your girl interacting with that, not just interacting with that, but feeding that fire. And then it's like you can't really help but get protective. I'm not a jealous guy. But I've noticed, lately when I go out in social settings, if there's a guy who's on my girl in the wrong type of way, there's just a feeling. I don't act on it. I'm the guy who goes up to him and becomes his best buddy.
But deep down, you're pissed.
But deep down, I get that urge as a man to want to protect what's mine. And I know that could be chauvinistic, but that's our primal being right there.
I do it on the opposite side, like I'm very trusting of my husband, but if I see him talking to some cute girl, I'm going to go over and become her best friend very quickly. I'm not going to go over and stare her down and be like, get your paws off my man. But I think you're right. It is an animal instinct to do that. So like maybe we could try and advise men based on like what Kristen was saying, like how could they handle that situation? So I understand like going over, being friends with them, but then what is the conversation when you get home with your girlfriend or a girl that you just started seeing?
Do you address it?
Do you address? Well, I say yes, but what do you guys think?
Well, if you peed on your girlfriend and then she went out, wouldn't the guys pick up that scent and just walk away?
So that's what we've learned today. Just urinate on your girlfriend.
I just spent the weekend in the woods. So one of the words of advice, because me and my girl were staying in this like Mongolian tent, like overlooking like. It was in the Sequoia National Forest. The stream was right there. We're in this Mongolian tent. It's real sexy and awesome. And then the guy I'm staying with, he's like, yeah, there's a lot of bears around here. You need to piss around your tent to mark your territory so then the bears don't come and eat you and your girl.
That's interesting.
So did you?
Oh, yeah.
You loved it.
I loved it.
So how do you apply peeing around your tent to the real world?
Oh, well, yeah, it is kind of marking your territory per se. If your girl is in a conversation, you see guys kind of taking it to the next level. I agree with walking up to them, introducing yourself, being part of the conversation, not letting it get to you.
What if I could see if, and it's cool if like you walk over there and she puts her arm around you, but what if she kind of like doesn't really do that? Maybe it's a new relationship and she's still talking to the guys. Like, would that piss you off?
I've seen situations where it's a new relationship and for some reason there's nothing set in stone and girls will like flirt with another guy deliberately in front of the other guy. And for a woman, that's just completely wrong. At least have the respect for the gentleman. Unless this guy that you're meeting is the one per se, or there's just something so there.
But I think a girl thinks that brings up her points.
Yeah.
Makes her look better. Oh, look at the guy talking to me. What you called it something last week when you were referring to your friend who's a dating expert. He's a man and he always has good dates.
It raises his value, his social value.
Yeah.
So I always think, because I know it works on men. Because I will say I've been that girl, and I'm dating somebody new, and I am showing him that I am desirable because I'm not completely secure with what we are yet. So I want to make him a little bit jealous, or I want him to look over at me. And I do realize as I get older, there's a lot of men who will be like, yeah, I'm not dealing with that. But for men who are listening to know, just know that like I wasn't doing that to be like, let me fuck around with my date right now. It's really from an insecure place.
And that's so true. And I feel like men need to recognize that because that's the moment you need to step up as a man and outside whatever that moment's happening there later on that night. If there's an argument that comes out of it, normally those arguments are good because it's saying, look, I like you a lot. You are mine. We are a serious couple together. You don't have to go do that anymore. And I agree with you. I think it's women who aren't getting some sort of attention or a strong base of I love you and this is real. Mm-hmm. They're going to go out there and kind of create that tension for them.
You're going to get the attention somewhere else.
They're
going to act up.
Human beings have the weirdest mating dances. Mm-hmm. It's so weird.
And we're also insecure, and we just want to be loved.
It's true. Well, we were talking before today about talking and discussing testing and playing games, and I think that this is a great segue into that conversation because on my site, the Wing Girl Method, I tell men, women do not test you for sport, and I get yelled at so often by men saying like, why do women test? Well, they're manipulative. They're doing these things on purpose, and it literally frustrates me because I'm like, they don't test you for sport. I don't go on a date and say, I'm going to give him these 3 tests tonight and see how he does. It's literally coming from an insecure place.
Up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it creeps up on you. And all of us are uncomfortable. All of us are insecure. And all of us are trying to protect our own egos. So the sooner that you can recognize for both men and women that both sexes are kind and we're good people, we're just a little uncomfortable and acting from that place of discomfort to protect ourselves.
And you don't also know where someone's coming from, their history. I used to do this thing where I'd be like, you know what, it's just not working. Sorry, it's been a really good time. It's cool. Actually, you're awesome. Hopefully we can stay in touch. It's cool. Just not working for me. I would constantly do that. And I would constantly test Dave. And every time he would be like, stop it. And I think at the end of the day, we need affirmation. And you don't know where someone's come from and their experience. It's like, they're kind of fucked up afterwards.
Yeah, that's actually a really good example because I used to do that too. And I'd just be like, I just want to hear that you like me.
Yeah.
I just want to know.
Yeah, you need that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. You were going to say something. I saw you you're like, I've got something to say.
No, I just, no, believe me, no one wants to hear it.
Well, I do. I want to hear it, but
Do
in terms of testing. So for like a lot of guys, they'll be out at a bar or a social setting, and they'll approach a girl, and they'll say that this woman tested them in some way by saying like, "Oh, you're just a really nice guy," or "Are you gay?" Like a comment like that, which
That's
for
a
me,
dick comment.
But for me, I consider that.
You're just looking for a friend. You're like,
a-
are you gay? Literally, I need to go
well, for
shopping.
me, it would be.
No, or like a challenging question. I don't know. So like, what are some, I'm putting air quotes because I don't like that they use the word test, but what are some other things that you may have done in your dating lives with men that may have come from an insecure place, but men could have seen as testing?
Oh, well, I know for me, I think one of the things in this relationship, he was with a girlfriend previous to me, and they had a cat who is now my cat. And so I had
Inherited his child.
Yeah, so I had some insecurities about this cat that I like am so in love with coming from another girl. So like I would make sure that he, I would test kind of, wait, so when did you get the cat and you picked it out by yourself? I mean, this is a horrible example, but that was something that I felt insecure about.
So you would ask questions.
I would ask
questions.
subtle questions, and I was in no way trying to make him think I was testing him. And again, it wasn't intentional. It was just, I want to know that this that I'm with is like our cat. So yeah, it was a test. Yeah, it was an affirmation. And
but do you think
once
of
I
it
started
as a
cleaning
test?
his litter box, I was like, okay, this is my fucking cat.
You're committed.
Yeah.
But do you think of it as a test? Are you thinking in your mind he better answer this right?
Oh God, almost. And
Really?
I hate to say that, but kind of, because if he gives her credit in the ownership of this cat, like, oh, we named him this, and we had bought him here or whatever, I would start to get like a little territorial. So I did want the questions that made me feel okay that this is our cat. And if I didn't get those, I would probably let it go, but I would feel a little bit maybe pissed.
Right. Or from insecurity.
From insecurity.
And that's where it comes from, I think. And when you want to understand that, it's like we're just all looking for some affirmation. And if you are into them, then tell them, because I constantly would test my exes and even my current fiance. That's just how it was. I needed to make sure. I always was so sick of feeling like it wasn't working out. I needed to know, that's why my big thing was just like walking away, being like, it's over. It's over.
So you thought of it as I'm just so obsessed with this. You thought of it as a test. I'm going to test him and see what
and
he
I would
says.
even leave. I would like storm out and then I'd come back in. I'd be like, this is done. I'd slam the door.
Like, aren't you going to chase me?
I sit outside. Wait.
Yes, and by the way, men,
and I go back
this is
inside.
the one thing I can say for certain, and I am an expert, is that if we walk away, we want you to follow us.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. If I go in the bedroom and slam the door, or because I'm so distraught, I probably walk into the door. But if I go in the bedroom and I slam the door, you better come in after me.
And if you don't, nothing will piss us off more.
That is
Just
a
so you
test.
know.
That is a
I used
test.
to do that with tantrums when I was younger, but I would get like louder and louder and louder because all I wanted was for my parents to come in and be like, "Are you okay?" And they'd be like, "I'm fine," and like
and then
go
close the
crazy
door
stuff.
on them.
Exactly.
But you want them to know. You want to know that they want to give you attention. And as horrible and childish as that sounds, at the end of the day, this is all for relationships are all to make you feel like you have someone.
But once you're comfortable, then once you both have that security, it's so awesome to be in one and have this partner in life. I want to just say that I feel like once you get over that hump, shit gets awesome.
Yes, and
but
you
it's
do the work.
It is that hump of probably mutual testing and, understanding that comes from a place of just her wanting to know that you're there for her. So.
And I think for guys, if your girl is pulling little games and doing these things, you guys got to look at yourselves because there's something that you're not doing. I've always noticed, because I've been on and off with my girl for 10 years. Wow. And whenever I had a wandering eye and I just wasn't in it all the way, she knew. Even though I wouldn't do it in front of her, she knew that for some reason my heart wasn't there fully. But when my heart's been there fully and I've been 100% committed, she's the happiest girl in the world.
100%.
That's interesting.
I would be too, Mo.
Yeah.
I know.
We like that head.
Oh, Mo.
I love it. No, this is a really good conversation because this is an honest conversation. And I'm sure there's going to be some people who are really angered by this because you're like, why do women do this? Again, we're not telling you how women should act with butterflies and rainbows attached to it. We're telling you how we do act so that you can understand and be prepared to handle these things and deal with us from an educated point of view rather than also yourself getting wrapped up in the emotion and getting pissed and angry.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So tell us what you want to hear, you guys. We want to hear your thoughts. We're here for you. Follow us on Facebook, Ask Women, or on Twitter, Ask Women Podcast. And also, if you have questions, call us. Leave a message. 802-266-0-ASK. Let us know what you want to hear, and we'll see you next week.
And actually, on Facebook, it's Ask Women Podcast. There's something else called Ask Women, so don't go to that one. Go to Ask Women Podcast on Facebook.
Thank you, Kristen.
Yes.
All right.
Perfect.
We will see you
Bye, guys.
soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Ask Women podcast. Go to podcastone.com next week for a brand new show.